Welcome to the Literary License Podcast, European Horror Podcast, with your co-hosts Vicky Ray, Will Millar, and Keith Chalvo, exploring the genre from a unique perspective, from extreme to classic, in a world that is set to chill you to the bone.
Hello, welcome to Literary License Podcast. Today we're discussing The Vanishing for our European horror film of the month, which was done in 1988. And before we get started, let's find out who's with us. We have Vicky Ray with us. Hello, Vicky.
Hi, guys.
And Jesse Fultz. Hello, Jesse.
Hey, everyone. How's it going?
And before we get started, let's find out if we have any roses and thorns of the week. And Jesse, any roses and thorns for the week?
Let's see. Well, getting a lot of work done, I guess. I don't really have any thorns. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know what to say.
I don't have many roses and thorns either this week. I decided to say my roses. Asher's doing good again in racing, so we're going to stick our toe in the water this weekend in Houston and see how he does against the big boys. And as far as thorns, I don't know. I'm kind of sick of everybody's bullshit and everybody hating on each other and everybody tearing down statues and tearing down this, and everybody just get a grip and chill. Everybody smoke pot. Something. Stop the madness.
Well, I guess Roses is The Order season 2 started on Netflix. I started watching that, so that's quite good news.
I've not watched that yet.
It's about werewolves and witches and things, so it's quite good. I enjoyed it.
What's it called?
The Order on Netflix.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't get into that.
I was waiting for Seasons of Witches on, maybe it's Shudder.
Oh, History of Witches.
History of Witches, yeah. I've been waiting for their second season. We watched.
Is it a documentary?
No, it's a series. It's fantastic. But, I know what a good thorn is. Asher watched Aragon last night because he loves dragon riders and dragon this and that. And he's sitting there asking me if they made a part 2, and it was made 2006. So there's not going to be a part 2 because they were upset because the book was better. And they said that they didn't follow the book good enough for the movie. And so Debbie Downers in Hollywood.
As far as my thorn is, I don't really have a thorn. Work is exhausting at the moment, so it's a bit much. I hope that gets better. I do have a question for our listeners there, and you can do your answers to the info@llpodcast.com. Do feminist lesbians own male animals? That's what I want to know. So, if you have the answer to that, send it to us, and we may give you a Literary License Podcast T-shirt.
Make sure you address that to Keith if it's not more than cordial material in your email.
So, on that note, what we're going to do is we're going to cut to Story Geek, who's going to tell you what you can watch and what is free to download during the COVID crisis for this week. Take it away, Story Geek.
What movies and TV shows should you be watching the week of June 15th? I'm Jay Shear, executive producer of the Story Geeks podcast, and here are the movies and TV shows you can watch from home. Available for rent this week, not much available that was in wide release, although you should be able to find The King of Staten Island, starring Pete Davidson, Bill Burr, and Marissa Tomei. The King of Staten Island has a 68 on Metacritic and is going essentially straight to video here. But don't fret, we are getting closer and closer to movies hitting theaters again. The first really big movie coming to theaters looks like it'll be Disney's live-action remake of Mulan on July 24th. And then on July 31st, we get Christopher Nolan's thriller, Tenet. I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan. I can't wait for both of those films to come out. Until then, on streaming, Netflix has added Frost Nixon, which is a fictional account of Nixon's post-presidential interview about the Watergate scandal. Frost Nixon has an 80 on Metacritic. Also out on Netflix now, Da 5 Bloods. I think I missed this one last week, but it's about 5 African-American vets returning to Vietnam years later. It's a Spike Lee joint and has an 81 on Metacritic. Over on Amazon Prime, Rian Johnson's Whodunit Knives Out is now on Amazon Prime for free. That's a great film if you haven't seen it yet. The Metacritic score on that is 82. Nothing new to report over on Disney Plus or Hulu. So my pick of the week is definitely going to be Knives Out, since I've seen that movie and it's fantastic. And it's free on Amazon Prime, as I mentioned. It's funny, well-themed as a modern whodunit, and it seems like the cast is having a really great time making the film. If you do need a backup, travel back in time to the 1980s and watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off, a classic comedy about, well, Ferris Bueller calling in sick to school. And of course, hijinks follow. I didn't realize it was on Netflix until today, but that sounds like a fun weekend movie. It's another off week for the Story Geeks podcast as the team preps for our special series on independent video games. We hope you'll play along with us. Check out the Story Geeks Facebook group to know which games we're going to play and when. But you can go back and listen to all of our previous episodes by searching for the Story Geeks podcast on your preferred podcast provider. Until next week, this has been Jay Shear from the Story Geeks podcast, and I hope you have fun streaming movies and TV shows from home.
Hello, welcome back to Literature License Podcast, and thank you, Story Geek, for your selection. What we're going to talk to today is The Vanishing. This is a 1988 film, which literally is called Spoorloos, which is Dutch for traceless or without a trace. It is a 1988 thriller film directed by George Sluizer, adapted from his novella called The Golden Egg from 1984 by Tim Krabbe. Tim Krabbe is the son of Jérôme Krabbe, who was actually in the film The Fourth Man that we covered earlier this year. It stars Jean Bajou as a man who searches obsessively for his girlfriend following her disappearance at a rest area. The Vanishing was released on 27th of October 1988 and received positive reviews. Sluizer remade the film in English in 1993, starring Keifer Sutherland and Sandra Bollocks, and the remake was poorly received. So what we're going to do is cut to the trailer and a special book that you can download from Story Geek, and we'll be back after this.
Je m'appelle Raymond Lemorne. Je suis sociopathe et claustrophobe. Je n'ai jamais trompé ma femme.
Ah.
Il y avait le tire-bouchon, s'il te plaît, dans le tiroir. Mais je m'empresse de vous dire que pour moi le pire, ce n'est pas tuer. Parce que mine de rien, c'est devenu une passion. Tu as quelque chose dans la tête.
Vous êtes un menteur. Menteur? Non, je ne vais... Non. Oui? Et je veux...
Vous avez violé Saskia. Si elle est morte, je vais mourir moi aussi. Et si l'homme qui voulait savoir, c'était vous?
Sorry for the brief interruption, but I wanted to give you a gift. This is Jay Shear, author of the Amazon top-selling time travel novel Timeslingers and co-host of the Story Geeks podcast. We just released the Kindle edition of Death of a Bounty Hunter, our new supernatural steampunk Western novel, and I'd love for you to have it. With so many of us staying at home, we wanted to give you something. So we released the book early and discounted it to just 99 cents. You can learn more at deathofabountyhunter.com, but here's Mockingbird Preacher Witch, a character from the novel, to tell you what it's about.
This isn't a story about the man-ogre with a Gatling gun for an arm, or the Taiwan sorceress covered in tattoos, or even the long-winded banker. And while the speedster idiot and the large, very funny Pinkerton detective lady do play a role, It's not about them either. You might think this tale is about the Sheriff of Jericho, a man who will do just about anything to save a loved one, including work for a secret occultish society. And then there's a woman who bears the brunt of his sins and must defend herself when she's most vulnerable. All those characters appear in the story. I do too. But it's about more than that. The one I was assigned to, the Korean bounty hunter, he's at the dead center of it all. Flint, a bounty hunter who comes face to face with something we all do. Guilt and shame. And the desire to run from them. Not because we're cowards, but because sometimes we just can't stand ourselves. It's a story about that. The Gatling guns, the occult, the paranormal, and even the demon spawn. All those are just along for the ride. Mockingbird Preacher Witch. Like I said, I'm in the story. Just read it.
Mockingbird Preacher Witch is voiced by Anastasia Washington in the full cast audiobook coming out later this summer. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy this gift from us to you while you stay at home. To get the Kindle edition for just 99 cents, visit deathofabountyhunter.com. That's deathofabountyhunter.com.
Hello, welcome back to the Literary Legends Podcast, and we're discussing The Vanishing, the 1988 Dutch film. So, Vicky, what are your thoughts of The Vanishing?
I really liked it. I've never seen this one before, and I knew it was going to be a train wreck as soon as he met the guy. I knew you have to meet the stories. I wouldn't say it's a slow burn. I don't know. Do you think it was a slow burn? You have to tell the story, and I guess people might get frustrated with subtitles. And like I've told people before, don't not watch a movie because it has subtitles, because you might be missing something really good. But it's kind of one of those movies that kind of makes you think, because I travel quite a bit, and like I said, we're back on the BMX trail, and when you go to gas stations and stuff like that, and you got squirrely people to come up to you every once in a while. But, never in my wildest dreams of bad common sense would I ever get into a car with somebody. I don't know how readily available chloroform is anymore, but just don't choose. People just don't get in the car with strangers at a gas station on the highway, no matter what country you're in. I really thought it was really well done. I love this movie. It kind of it gnawed at my anxiety bone. And then a little bit claustrophobia. I'm not going to give it away completely just yet, but you kind of saw this coming when, the guy decides to, Rex decides to go with the crazy chemist, and I just wanted to punch that chemist through this whole movie. He really just got on my last nerve. I don't know about you guys, because he was so smug about, being this horrible person. It's just like, you got to wonder what happened to him to make this man such a psycho. Is he a sociopath or a psychopath?
Yeah.
There's a fine line with that when it comes to cinema. But I really enjoyed it. I mean, I watched it twice to see what I'd missed, because when it is subtitles, you get distracted sometimes. But I loved it. As far, like I said, when something gets on my anxiety vein, and I get vested in characters, then I'll definitely suggest that anybody watching this, especially if you like European film or just anything that's not out of Hollywood, because it is. I don't know. What about you, Jess?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting as well. I did find it interesting that the remake actually started with the chemist guy doing the chloroform thing, where he was testing it on himself to time himself. I thought that actually did a huge disservice to the film, whereas in this film...
They did it in this film too, though.
But they didn't start out with that.
No, they didn't start out with that.
That's what made the difference, I think, because you're kind of put on edge. And I like when movies just kind of drop you into the world that they've kind of set up. They don't explain it. There's no exposition. You're just kind of left watching something very normal take place. And you're kind of on this journey with these people, not knowing what's going to happen. I was kind of wondering, what the deal was with the husband. And I think they might have tried to set it up to where he looks like he was kind of the equal to, this guy later on. Just because I remember a scene where when he was going to get the gas, when he left her in the car.
He wasn't very attentive, was he? That was kind of shitty.
But he also kind of seemed to have a smug smile, which I thought was kind of like an interesting response to your wife's fear of being.
I would not sit in a tunnel. I don't know, in Europe, tunnels, or even here, like the Sumner Tunnel, Boston, or any tunnel, Lincoln Tunnel. In New York City. You don't want to be stuck in those tunnels with no gas. It's so dangerous. And he left her there.
I know, but he also smiled while walking away.
But I have to sit there and say that when you're on a long car journey with each other, and the point where it's just like, okay, something like that happens. I mean, I haven't been that point of thing, but I have been in points where, the car's, broken down on the side of the road.
Right.
Trying to sort it out, and you have to go find a phone. Especially this is before mobile phones.
True.
And the other person in the car is just like, come on, we need to get going. And they're like, I need this, I need that. And next thing you know, they're taking half the car with them. And you're like, for God's sake, just leave it behind. So let's just go. And at the point, it's just like, I know I've been in a situation where I've kind of walked around, just left them there. Like, screw you, I need to go get help. I'm not going to sit there and play around with you while something needs to be done. So I can kind of understand that to a certain degree. And because, she's like, oh, I need a flashlight, I need this. And she's going all over the place. And then so I kind of understand that, because car journeys are a wonderful but a horrible thing at the same time. You have some of the best times in like car journeys, but you also have the most horrible times on the car journey, and they kind of coincide with each other.
Yes, they do.
And you're kind of like, the people that you love so dearly, you want to kill them, but you do love them. It's kind of a weird economy that you say.
It's by the time you finally reach your destination, it's like you're ready to kill everybody. That's true. Just like all of you.
Well, anytime that you're in an enclosed space with anybody for those long periods of time. So, but I have to sit there and say that I quite like how the film basically starts off. It's almost like you're kind of going to reality, but you're kind of going into like this dream state eventually.
Right.
Exactly. That's kind of what I felt like. I felt like I was watching one of my own like dreams turn into like a kind of, it wasn't really
nightmare,
that nightmarish, but yeah, it was kind of nightmarish in a very subtle way, because you don't really know what happened, and you're not thrust into the throes of what happened to her, which is really what would have made it nightmarish, I think. But I guess it was nightmarish in a different way, because this man doesn't know what happened to his wife, but at the same time, you don't witness the anxiety or his constant fear, because they do shift from, this point to 3 years later. And then they shift away from him and then shift you to the other guy who kidnapped her.
Did you guys think her dream about the golden egg thing, was that prophetic to you? Do you think it was something that kind of foretold?
Probably.
The thing is, if you get buried alive, I guess it is like you're floating in space, aren't you?
I don't know. I think it'd be just a nightmare. God.
Well, it's just basically, if you think about it, if you are buried alive, you're just in total darkness, no light, nothing.
Right.
And I guess that's what probably that symbolizes. And when she says that, I like the foreshadowing when she says, and then there's another egg, and then they kind of clash, and that's the ending of everything.
Right.
Which is basically what you do get by the end of the film, sort of thing.
Do you think his obsession was his undoing? Like where he was given the choice?
Well, the thing is, I was kind of thinking about that, but then if you know of anybody who's actually lost a child where they've never been found, the parents kind of go through this kind of, for the rest of their lives, where they're kind of like always on the search of what happened.
Yeah.
And especially if someone goes missing, I would understand that you probably would become obsessed, because at the end of the day, it's like she was there, she went to the bathroom, and she just didn't come back. And okay, I can understand like if they were fighting, but it's like, because I'll always protect, and he did owe to her that I will always protect you, always be there for you. Nothing will ever bad happen to you. And then she goes off to get a couple drinks and doesn't come back.
But I also noticed in the parking lot on the ground, he kicked a Coke. No, he kicked the beer can, and there was the smashed Coke can on the ground. I don't think he noticed that, but I think that was to indicate that. I don't think it was actually hers, because if she went in the car willingly, she wouldn't have dropped the drinks. But I think it was a kind of like foreshadowing that, okay, something bad happened to her. Because she seemed to go in there willingly, didn't she? Like when he invited her into the car.
Well, because she thought she was buying the keychain.
Exactly. So she didn't actually drop those drinks, but they were there on the floor, on the ground next to those children, and then he kicked the other can that wasn't the Coke can, and then you see the Coke can smashed on the ground.
But this is also somebody that she didn't have just one conversation with. She's had a couple conversations with him. She had a conversation with him earlier about getting coffee sort of thing. Then she went back to him. And then before they left, she went back there again and they had another conversation. So it's not like they had one conversation, she was getting in the car. You know what I mean? It's almost like, oh, here you are again, sort of thing, da-di-da-di-da, sort of thing. So it wasn't like, you know, and I thought that was quite clever because normally in these kind of films is like they have like one conversation. Oh, what a beautiful day. Yeah, okay, I'll help you, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I thought that was also really interesting is that we actually got into the mind of the killer and we got to know the killer, which normally we don't normally get in these any kind of film. Normally American films is like, you know, you'll get some kind of, you know, black figure, you know, planning something, but you never get to know him. But I think what makes him more frightening is that he's a normal person, really. I mean, he's got a family and kids. He's a good dad. He seems to be a good wife.
He's a hero. He saved the little girl from drowning. He's a hero, you know, in his children's eyes.
And I say that probably when you think of serial killers or killers of anything, they are just normal people. And that's what makes them scary. They're not, you know, they're not your, you know, Freddy Kruegers or Michael Myers or Jason's running around out there in the real life. The real life is the normal person. And what's the one thing? Well, what's the one thing they ever say about any killer ever? Oh, they were quiet. They were really nice. They kept to themselves. You know, and, you know, if you look at John Wayne Gacy, he was a pillar of society.
Yeah.
You know.
His house gave off a putrid odor on occasion.
Yeah, of course, yeah. You know, even Ed Kemp, I mean, it's just like, oh, he's quiet, he's very, very kind, and, you know, if you needed anything help. Ed Gein used to babysit the children in the neighborhood.
Yeah, what a freak he was. God, man.
You know, and I thought that was quite clever to be able to show him in that kind of light. It wasn't like he was like this odorous person that you're just going to hate. It's kind of like, you're kind of watching it going, God, he's just so boring and normal. And I think that's what makes it more scary.
What I was trying to figure out, though, is did he just do it to these people, or was he a serial killer? I mean, they don't really specify. Well,
it seemed like he was doing it to multiple, or was trying to do it to multiple women. But I don't know if he ever... you know,
well, no one would get in the car with him or something happened where he was versus, you know.
Well, I think what we get basically is we get a man that, which I thought was another thing that was very clever about the film, is that we see someone practicing and like,
exactly.
And what didn't work, he was perfecting his skill. Sort of thing, you know, like he'd bumbling around with the chloroform, and it's like, okay, and then he like the woman trying to get in the car. Well, that didn't work. Okay, well, I'll try a cast this time and see if that works. Right. Okay, this works. This doesn't work, so I won't do this, but this works, so I will do this. And
because
he was always changing his procedure.
He was always very polite with his victims. He wasn't like pushy and forceful or violent with them. He just kind of, you know, like if a woman wanted to walk away, he'd let her walk away. He didn't, you know, come up and follow her and chloroform her in a dark alley and put her in the car anyway. He just kind of waited for a sort of willing victim. They're not
almost like hunting.
It's very weird, but it's like a very gentle form of hunting. It's not as forceful as one might imagine, which is very odd because it was like he was trying to perfect his magnum opus.
Yeah,
which I guess was Saskia.
Yeah, they definitely.
I mean, if you're gonna, I guess there would be problems remaking this film today due to CCTV and everything like that. Right. But back then there was no CCTV. You just have to, and if you do take someone at a road stop like this, there's so many people coming in and out and going around that half of the people that go through that
pay attention.
Gas station, you're never going to be there again. You're just passing through.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if you get huge amounts of people coming in and out and stuff like that, I guess, you know, it'd be pretty easy to abduct someone if you do it in a very friendly, cordial manner, because no one's going to bat two eyes.
Do you think that because Rex was making it so public and spending all of this money to, you know, try to find out what happened to Saskia, do you think that, I don't know, do you think he was unnerved, that the killer was unnerved about this, or was it just piquing his curiosity about Rex, or how do you think?
I think it's a cat and mouse thing, sort of thing. It's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like, well, fine, you know, he's sending all these things out and saying that, you know, he's looking to get, you know, find out what happened, and he's like, okay, let's see if you really are interested, and you know, I think that. I think Rex, on top of everything, is basically just suffering from guilt. You know, before she disappears, I will protect you for the rest of life. Nothing will ever happen to you. And then she disappears, and he's helpless. He can't do anything about that. And even though he does search, I mean, what you were saying about, you know, the kicking of the bottle and the crashing of the crushed can. I mean, that's another thing that's quite interesting, because if you are looking for someone, you don't tend to, you know, like if you lose someone in a supermarket, you don't tend to look down at the ground anyway.
No.
You're looking up around because people are standing up. So you're looking at eye level or down, but you never actually look down at the ground, which basically that was probably an important clue. That probably would have gave him some more information if he actually just looked down, but who does?
Right. True.
You know, especially if you ever lose a child in a grocery store or anything, and you're kind of running around looking for that person.
Oh God, yeah, just totally That's utter panic right there.
Yeah, and I also thought it was quite interesting that you know, that's another dichotomy that you have, is like if you have a chance and someone goes missing, how far would you go to find out exactly what happened?
Till the money runs out, I guess. You know.
Well, I'm talking to the point, would you put yourself in that person's shoes?
Well, I mean, didn't you see that coming? I've never seen this before, and I saw that coming. Not that he was going to bury him alive like he did Saskia. Sorry, spoiler alert. But I mean, if you knew she was probably dead and he did something to her and he wanted him to have her experience, well, then you knew it wasn't going to turn out well.
I also think that maybe, you know, if you think that you're going to be the hero of your own story, that maybe you think that, okay, you know, Saskia might be female, she might be weak, but I might not be that weak, and I might be able to fight my way out of it if the situation gets too bad. And I guess, I mean, to be honest, is the way that she was killed, it's probably more horrific than if you actually just stabbed her to death.
Yeah, because that's painful.
Yeah.
And scary. I mean, just think of the fear and the horror, just how bad something like this, knowing that there's nothing you can do. That's when I actually think that it's a good movie, because you feel that it's like, oh my God, he's not doing this, and it's like, of course this is what he's going to do, because what worse thing can you do? I mean, murdering somebody with a bullet or cutting their throat or whatever, you know, people do on, you know, horror TV or whatnot, or in real life, sadly, for that matter, that's so quick. You know, that's over quick. The suffering is over quick. The suffering is not over quick. You're going to run out of oxygen. Your lungs are going to start expanding. And it just, what a horrible way to go. I hope you only pass out before the real awful stuff happens, because that's just, that guy's an asshole. That is a horrible way to kill another human being.
It's putting it charitably.
What a
well, I had to sit there and say also is that you do have the scene where the killer and his family are eating outside, and she's got the kids screaming. I mean, the thing is, we don't really know the time difference, but I mean, did he just catch her? It was just like the next day. She could have been alive, like struggling for her breath and everything like that. Listen to the family screaming.
Yeah. Did he bury were they buried close? I noted that they panned to the ground around the house at the end of the movie. Was she buried somewhere close by?
See, this is where I think that basically where she talks about her dream about that they're together, sort of thing. And I think he probably buried them side by side.
Probably.
It's only because it kind of ties into the whole, you know, the golden egg story that they're
right,
sort of thing.
But I'm just wondering, is this way out somewhere, or is he a real nut job and did it close to the house? Because
well, I think they were showing that basically they said that there's trees around the house and that they should cut the trees down. And he said, no, I like the trees there. So I'm assuming that's because the trees are in close proximity to the house. I imagine it's probably where those trees are.
Yeah,
because of what they were saying. I mean, you don't really know, but that would make sense, the reason why they're talking about the trees for some reason. So I assumed they're probably near the house by the trees. And he's the kind of person who likes a chance, sort of thing. He likes, you know, he kind of gets off as like, okay, I've done this, I got away with it. And I think he kind of like, okay.
So he wasn't going to go visit their gravesite. I could see him going to visit their graves because he's such a whack job.
Well, I guess it's just going out. And I mean, the thing is, if you're, you know, washing your dishes and you look out your kitchen window and you see them there, and you know, it's probably, if you're like him, you have some kind of, you know, joy from it. I mean, it's like, yeah, I got away with this sort of thing.
Well, when he was reminiscing about his childhood, and he jumps off the balcony, I guess because he could. I don't see any other reason why.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's kind of hard to differentiate what his age was at that time.
Preteen.
If he was preteens, and I mean, kids do kind of stupid things. I remember one time I jumped from the banister onto the floor because I thought that basically I could like the $6 million man, probably bionic woman. Let's be honest. And that sort of thing, and it's like, oh, and I'm like.
That's more normal, though. This guy took it to the next level, even as a child, and
yeah, but he did only jump from a second-story window, though. So
I had a friend in college named Nick. He used to jump out of the second floor all the time. That was the 80s. Need I say more?
Well, I think it was maybe meant to be higher, because if you think about his injuries, if it was only that short of a fall, he wouldn't have lost those fingers, and he also wouldn't have had that head injury if it was that short of a distance.
I was looking. I didn't see that he was.
I noticed that he actually lost part of his fingertips earlier on in the movie, which I'm like, does the actor actually have missing like parts of his finger? Because one of them is shorter. That's not supposed to.
I didn't. I was looking and I couldn't see.
Yeah, I kind of wondering that. Normally, if someone's going to jump out of a window, they normally jump into like a grassy lawn, not normally concrete.
Not on the pavement.
That's the middle of the town square.
Yeah. But didn't he hit? I mean, but he didn't actually just hit the pavement. Didn't he hit something before he hit the pavement? Wasn't there like a car or something?
I don't know if they showed really.
They just showed him laying there on the pavement. You know.
Well, yeah, they showed him like jump, and then they showed him on the pavement. I don't remember seeing.
He was moving when he was on the ground. So I mean,
what's quite interesting is that if you read a lot about serial killers, that normally what they have in common is that they've had some kind of head injury, they say. So maybe that was the reason being. And maybe, another thing is, I mean, if you jump and you land on your legs, chances are you break your legs. If something happens and you jump out, and unfortunately your head's a bit heavier than the rest of your body, you kind of hit your head first. And that's probably the danger there, isn't it? So. I remember going skiing and I broke 4 of my fingers because I tried to stop myself with a tree, and I kind of like put my fingers up against the tree thingy and they snapped backwards. I broke them that way. So, but, it didn't make writing very good at school. I mean, I had like
where were you up to Dry Hill?
Weeks. Dry Hill, of course, yeah. Sort of things, what you do.
You should have stuck to the bunny trail.
I should have done what I normally do when you're skating or when you're playing hockey. It's like, if you're gonna fall, land on your ass. No, I'm gonna stop with my fingers. So, but I mean, I think overall, I think what makes this film kind of work is that it does have this haunting quality that kind of sticks to you after the final, credits go up. And
it does stick with you. It was a horrible ending. I mean, not horrible cinematically. I mean, it was just god awful what this guy did, and he's going to get away with it. He's just one of those guys that definitely is going to get away with it.
Well, also the rest of the world didn't seem to care. The rest of the world didn't seem to miss these people, or like no one knew about them. Family, friends, like none of that. They were just 2 people, and nobody else seemed to know of their existence. No one inquired about them, and they just made it seem like this one guy was, I don't know. I was under the impression they kind of felt like he was a little bit of a nut job, but I don't really know why, just because I think it's a perfectly natural response. Maybe not to the I don't know. They seem to insinuate that he was a little bit more extreme than the average person, but I don't know that that's necessarily true. But I also could be misinterpreting that myself. I don't know. That's the vibes I got, though.
Who's going to think a chemistry teacher is going to be burying people alive after he has chloroformed them, I bet he looks so like such a mundane person, and so boring that who's going to think that he's going to do something like that? So he's got the perfect, motif going on with himself.
I'd suspect someone like that more than I probably would the average Joe, just because they have a lot of background and knowledge about weird stuff like that.
Sort of like Keith.
Don't bury me alive.
Well, I have to sit there and say, I mean, the thing is, yeah, he does get away with these two, but saying that if this becomes like his new personal obsession and he continues down this route, chances are that, you know, eventually he might get caught if he keeps playing this game sort of thing. I doubt that.
Find out.
Well, I doubt that he would just stop at these two anyway. I imagine as like, he's perfected it. He got away with two. Let's try a third. Let's try a fourth. So
I could see him doing it.
It's probably like some kind of obsessive compulsive thing. Like when you get that injury, which I'm assuming because he mentioned it is like what caused his criminality, his obsession to do this. It's very compulsive. It seems like he can't really help himself. Even though it's premeditated, it does seem like a compulsion even still. Based off of just his personality and what he's already like. I don't know. I thought it was interesting trying to figure out like what exactly this guy was all about and why, like what he got out of it. You don't really know. You just know that he does it and gets away with it.
If he was actually doing it more because, he was always gone. And remember when his wife asked him, is there somebody else? Mm-hmm. So you got to wonder, has he been up to this for a while?
Well, sometimes people just do things to see if they can get away with it. And even though that they might not be getting anything sexually from it, sometimes it's just the fact of what you can get away with.
Well, he did say, after he saved that drowning girl and proved that he was a hero to his family, he did say he wanted to see if he could do something really horrible and actually do it.
Yeah, that's possible. It's very possible. The thing is, and if he is if he's a chemistry teacher, maybe he is into sciences and is, that's all, pros and cons and probabilities and everything that goes along with that. So maybe this was just an experiment.
I can't imagine. The worst thing we ever chloroformed, we found some turkeys in New Hampshire. We chloroformed some turkeys and we put them in the boys' hall adjacent to ours, and they woke up with all these turkeys. But even then, the stuff works.
Yeah.
I used to kill my fruit flies in organic chemistry with the chloroform all the time. I did so bad in organic chem. But yeah, chloroform was readily available in the 80s, now that I'm sitting here talking out loud to myself. But yeah, it was available.
I don't think it doesn't seem to be now.
All the good stuff. It's sort of like I had a chemistry set. Remember when we were kids, Keith, we used to get chemistry sets? They were metal. They had all the stuff, You could have had your own meth lab when you were 9. You can't get that now.
Well, God, the only thing I remember is like mixing a couple of things and having like the smell of rotten eggs going everywhere.
That sounds awful.
The good old days.
Yeah. Oh, those days are gone.
Yes, they are.
So I guess we should get to our final thoughts of The Vanishing. So, Jesse, what are your final thoughts of The Vanishing?
I thought it was a very fascinating film. I like the build-up. I didn't like that there was I like that there wasn't exposition. I like when movies don't treat you like you're stupid. And a lot of modern Hollywood films, I feel, do that. They kind of feel like they have to over-explain things, either through character dialogue or exposition, and that irritates me. I like when you just can watch a movie, sit down, and kind of run through it. And kind of just, like I said earlier, just get dropped down into this world of whatever the creator is trying to create. And you get to go through the whole horrific journey with these people. Because that's what it is.
It's pretty horrific.
Mm-hmm.
And what about yourself, Vix?
I'd have to say that this is probably one of the first killer movies I've seen where there's no knifing, no stabbing, there's no blood. There's none of that Jason Voorhees kind of stuff going on, no machetes. It's just all psychological, basically. And I think that's what makes it so good. And this is just it's a kind of a mindfuck kind of movie, actually. They did a good job with it because I was just, I was almost predicting what was going to happen. And it's just like, when he drank the coffee, just like, oh God, this is such a given. Why is he doing this? I still don't know why he did it. I kind of figured out, but how can you trust somebody who murdered your wife / girlfriend, whatever?
I know that's something that I was kind of confused by when he just kind of very simply. And also when he was beating up the guy was a little pathetic.
I know. I would have beat the hell out. I would have killed him.
I think because they were actually making contact. Because I'm pretty sure that they were making contact. I think that's why it was so pathetic, because he couldn't actually injure the guy. It didn't look like fake punches. It looked like he was just kind of using his arm to like slap him, and then actually part of his leg to like actually kick him. Because you could see him making contact. I think that's why it looked so pathetic.
Well, this killer messes with this man Rex's head like throughout the whole movie. You know, telling him where he is, but not what apartment he's in, but he knows he's close by. And it's just a real mind twisting kind of thing. And I have to say, you know, there's no slashing in it. It's like a psychological thriller movie, and it has a horrific ending. It's kind of a nightmare. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I've liked it just for that reason, because they did a good job imparting, you know, the thriller part of it and the psychological part of it. So, like I said, I watched it twice. I really enjoyed it.
I mean, for myself, I quite like this film a lot, actually. I like that it doesn't lead you down American film framework that we normally get.
Right.
Everything's like these weird shades of gray, and that's pretty much it, sort of thing. And I like it. You know, I like that, you know, we do get an inside look at the killer's boring, normal life. I mean, it is really boring. I mean, that's what I quite liked about it. It's like, oh, okay, well, this is different. You know, they're not playing to what we normally get. This is like a thinking man's thriller, and that's what I think sets us above the rest. I think with the American remake, if you get a chance to see that, I think where that messes up a little bit is that they beat up on it a little bit. A lot of people weren't happy with the remake. Well, they do. They stick to American conventions that they normally stick with, sort of thing. But here it's kind of like, you know, this is like, okay, we're going to show you everything. We're going to show it as, you know, we're just going to play it out for you, you know, and by the end of it, we're going to stick it to you, and it's up to you to sit there and work it out inside your mind. You know, we're going to treat you like you're intelligent, and therefore if you're intelligent, you work it out. And I quite like that aspect of it. And I also quite like the aspect of, I like that the way that the couple are not Hollywood couple. They're just like really normal couple. Regular people with bicycles. Yeah. And that's what was quite nice about them. Even the conversations they had were normal. They were just like boring everyday kind of, you know, you're with the other half and these are the stupid conversations you're having, sort of thing. And I think that plays very, very well upon that. But there are my final thoughts. And I highly regard this film, sort of thing. I liked it. Well, our next European horror is going to be Bodum, and we're going to have a special YouTuber joining us who will be talking about his real-life crime episodes, and he has been dealing with the real-life crime of what happened in Bodum in 1965, which will be the film we have, and we'll give you more details in our newsletter, which you can get at www.lopodcast.com. Sign up to our newsletter, and you'll have more information about our special guest YouTuber. And until next time, our next episode will be Dark Shadows, and that is it for me. And so it's good night from Vicky. Good night, Vicky. Good night, Jesse. Be good to each other. And good night for myself, and we'll see you next week with Dark Shadows.
This has been a Literary License Podcast production, and this was my will.